What you think? Was that dramatic?
Oh wow. Are we live?
We are live.
Oh
Welcome.
my goodness. Okay, we're live. My hair. All right, cool. I need someone. I need the behind the studios a makeup artist. How you doing this morning, Donnie?
I'm blessed by the best. No need to be stressed. How are you doing? You're looking quite queenly, quite royal this morning.
Well, thank you. I'm feeling that way here at the
Hold
Baltimore.
up, hold up. Let me see that necklace. I gotta put my glasses on.
Oh yeah. So I'm a big social entrepreneur. I love promoting small businesses. So this is actually done by women, and I can't remember what remote part of the world, but it's an economic sustainability model. And so your purchasing helps to bring livelihood to different cooperatives throughout the world. And this is one of many pieces that I have. So I'm big supporter of Black businesses, small businesses. Yeah, creating systems for economic sustainability. Very important.
See, that is the perfect segue to what I want to talk with you about today.
Oh, I love it. Good stuff. We talk about helping our own.
We've known each other a few months now.
Yes.
No doubt you're at the Baltimore Times. I have a lot of love and respect. I was coming through Druid Heights the other day.
Okay.
And I saw this homeless addict who is not from this 99% Black community, who was loitering or something, but he was St. Catherine's Church, Peter Bramble. He was up on the steps on some porch, on a porch there, right there at Division, I want to say.
Oh, I know where you're talking about. Yeah, where you come around the bend.
Yeah, but he was up on the porch, and I couldn't really see what he was doing. It was Saturday. I was going to a meeting at Druid Heights for Sandtown, and I was going to call the police on him, but I say, Donnie, be nice. We have a strong influx of addicts that come to West Baltimore from God knows where. And it used to be cop and bop. They get their stuff and they leave. But what we find now is people want to put that needle up in them before they leave. And some of them don't leave. But all that being said, it made me think of Peter, no doubt, Joy. I don't know that I've ever met David, but I've heard a lot about him in the community. But I wanted to welcome you. You talked about strong systems. Down the bottom here it says, Black USA News brought you in part by STEM City USA.
Yeah, see that.
So you are a member of the Black Press.
Yes.
STEM City was created by Dr. Tyrone Taborn. And what STEM City is, I don't know if have you seen the virtual reality goggles?
Yeah, I actually got a link. I think it was from Marcia Jews, and you can enter in this virtual reality. I didn't get a chance. It looked like it took about an hour and a half to walk through every single entity within the virtual city, but it was absolutely amazing. I love what he's doing, how he's partnering with the children and teaching them so they have hands-on experience with that every 2 weeks. And I think that's awesome that he's taken that lead and taking us into a reality that will soon be our reality.
Well, we are now in the metaverse. So that's what the whole metaverse thing is all about, those virtual reality goggles.
You know, I want to share
steroids.
I want to share an interesting story. I was at the Muhammad Ali Museum in Louisville, Kentucky, and they had a virtual, you could sit on the bus and experience what Rosa Parks experienced. And it was these virtual reality glasses, and they took half of the bus and you sat on the bus and you put these glasses on and you became her. And so the cop gets on and he says, so first the bus driver said, I said, get to the back of the bus. And so I sit there, right? Because you're Rosa. And then The white cop gets on and says, get to the back of the bus. And of course, I'm Rosa, so I don't move. And then he comes up in my face and he says, nigger, I said to you, get to the back of the bus. And it was a really interesting experience because as I sat there, you felt what she felt in that moment. And it was just interesting. You're talking about taking you into virtual spaces. I could come out of that space, right? But she couldn't, right? She had to live through it. I was
I don't
able.
know. Just as you were describing that, the first thing came to mind, and it's so immature of me to say this, is like your mother.
Well, yeah, that wouldn't have went over so well at the time. That wouldn't have went over too well. When you consider what's going on today, I don't know if that would have went over too well. But it was interesting experience that took me to a place before my time where I was able to experience. It'll be interesting to see where this takes us. I surfed Facebook and I was really pleased as I was looking at it this weekend. It talked about the smartest Black person in the world, right? The sister in Nigeria, and how she solved a problem of 30 years that no one in China can solve and India can solve. And I said, when we level this playing field, boy, we are an incredible population. We are a threat, truly. So
let me bring it full circle. We've talked about Dr. Tyrone Taborn. Yeah. About STEM City, about the Baltimore Times.
Yeah.
Yesterday, as we were talking, what further prompted this interview was you mentioned both Stacey Brown and the National Newspaper Publishers Association. So for those who do not know, what is NNPA?
So the National Newspaper Publishers Association has been around since 1826, and it represents the nation's Black newspapers. It's really exciting. We're a voice of approximately 215 papers, but 47 million collectively in terms of our reach. And it was very interesting conversation this week, and everyone, you could tune in to NNPA, visit their Facebook, very lively conversations this week. And one, and we deal with issues in different states, and at times different papers chime in. But this was really, really interesting. And they talked about in Florida, they're looking to pass legislation locally, right, to be able to put tape recorders in public schools, recording students, and in an effort to police what they're taught in the schools. And it's what's going on a local level. What I really like about the national platform that they provide is, we look at local issues, but when you look at what's happening with voting rights and this outright oppression, it's starting locally. And so we as publications continue to provide a perspective, right? And really the truth about what is happening, dissecting and looking at the laws and how it impacts us. And so they were talking about the local impact, but more importantly, they were talking about how we need to we need to vote. We want to vote in national elections, and as we should, but we also need to vote locally and on a state level, and turn out in large numbers for those, because what's happening right now with voting rights is happening on the local level. It's happening on the state level, right? So we're looking at the Voting Rights Act, and there's some great things in there in the act in general. I don't know if you've had a chance to kind of look at some of the things. They are really good in terms of being the people's voting law, but what's happening is really happening on a state level, and we have to get involved in all levels and understand.
As you were talking, what came to mind is the Asians. The Asians got a hate bill passed. No marches, no fundraisers, no chicken dinners, no I have a dream speeches. Maybe we're doing something wrong.
I think, you know what I found? I used to work on Capitol Hill, and so I worked on the lobbying side, and then I worked on the legislative side. So I worked on Capitol Hill on both sides. And what I found fascinating, and I think that I would say every citizen needs to know how your vote goes from an issue to how it's introduced to how it goes into markup to how it gets marked out and how when the vote happens you wonder, well, why isn't my amendment in there? Well, that happened in markup, right? Because they're negotiating, if I'll vote for this, if you take this out, or just what they're doing now that they're doing on the national level. Well, that happens on what they call committee levels. So, each legislator gets assigned a committee. Why? Because the Senate and the Congress can't deal with all the committees at one time. So all the issues at one time, excuse me. So they have committees. And in these committees and subcommittees, they deal with these issues. But that's where a lot of things take place. And so when you understand the whole legislative process,
it's a bunch of crap, Paris.
Oh, you think it is? I've seen it happen. I've been in a ring.
No. It's a lot of subterfuge, a lot of smoke and mirrors. Treat people right. Just treat people right.
You're talking about being motivated by love in all things.
No, love. It's just human decency. How can this nation go around talking about democracy when we don't practice what we preach?
Well, I think, Donnie, part of the larger problem is everyone loves their position. They're more concerned about their reelection than they are fair voting rights.
But
right?
See, that means we're not paying attention. COVID happened, and COVID has disaffected everything, everybody, just about everywhere. If we haven't come to the full realization of this importance of life by now, don't seem like there's much hope for the human race.
Well, I'm still hopeful. I'm still hopeful because I'm still here. I'm going to continue to be hopeful. And that's a great segue for me into the Baltimore Times and what we do and why we continue to report positive news. Despite all that is happening out there, there's a lot of good happening in our community that we choose to lift up. There's a lot happening on the state level, and there's a lot happening on the national and global platform when it comes to people of color. Yes, bad things get a lot of rap, but that's what we do here, and that's what I love to do. We stop by businesses, we promote businesses. You know about our campaign to help the businesses, and we got a lot of traction on that. Over 100,000 viewers just looking at the website, and so we were excited about that campaign and our civic partners. So there's a lot good. There's a lot of good going on right here in Baltimore, despite all of the stories about the shootings and killings. I was at a community meeting and just hearing the testimony of what some of the organizations are doing. Are we solving all the problems? Absolutely not. When you opened your story, you talked about the homeless guy that was the addict. And so there are a lot of things that we have to deal with, but we talked about systems and putting systems in place, right, that are sustainable, right? Not just put a Band-Aid on it. What's the solution? I don't know, but I was so glad to be part of a community conversation where they talked about things like PAL, right? Police Athletic League, where, kids got to know the cops, right? And so, what works, we need to do more of that. What doesn't work, well, maybe we don't need to focus so much on that because you and I already know it doesn't work.
You're originally from New York City.
Yes.
Here in Baltimore. How do you think we have evolved over the past 20 years or so? This is the new millennium, 21st century.
So it's interesting. I was in Baltimore. I lived in Baltimore about 20 years ago and recently moved back about 5 years ago. I love Baltimore. Baltimore is a community of communities. And one of the things that I think I'm hopeful about as I look at this younger generation, I am amazed at their social awareness, their corporate responsibility. They'll look at products and say, well, what are you doing for the community? I mean, they will literally buy and do research. When you talk about marches, they can galvanize a march in a couple of hours. Where we planned the Million Man March, or we planned other marches, because I marched on the anniversary of the 20th anniversary when I was at Howard of Martin Luther King March. And, that planning took 2 years. It took 2 years. So planning of those things take longer times. I think that with the social media and the global platform, I'm amazed at how they can galvanize themselves, how they can craft messages and get it out. And its impact when you look at these alternative, very far wing groups, you see the importance of the social impact. But what I am inspired by and hopeful by is how our young people are using this message to say, hey, buy Black, our lives matter, right? What are you doing for the community? And that's a great thing. And you have to, Donnie, they're going to be leading us. And I like their attitude about accountability, how they're holding corporations accountable, how they're holding elected officials accountable. You see the group on Capitol Hill. I forgot the name. The four legislators that say, hey, we understand our power. And these young people, I'm so glad they're beginning to understand their power, and they're starting to wield their power. And so
I'm most interested in that economic power. Let me tell you why. We have about $1.5 trillion in annual disposable income.
We do.
I see us on social media buying things.
Yes.
But I also see us on social media doing fundraisers for funerals.
Mm-hmm.
I want us to get our priorities straight.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us get caught up in those in the world of materialism. And at the end of the day, Jeffrey Epstein should have taught us all that money can't buy you one friend. Jeffrey was a billionaire. He didn't have one friend in the end. They threw him under the bus. They still throwing him under the bus. Matter of fact, they just threw, who was it? The Duke, the Queen's son?
Yeah, Andrew. Yeah, he under the bus with him, huh?
Yeah. And then this lady, the lady who's on trial, she's still dropping names.
And she's trying to save herself.
And she's taking everybody with her.
Taking everybody. Yeah, she's trying to save herself and take everyone down. But the issue really is financial literacy, which we, in the large part lack. And I think it's also cultural, those things that we associate with success, right? Although I like nice things. I'm not going to say
nice things.
I love nice things. I like to look good.
But
I like nice things. I like to look good.
I'll wear a thrift store out. You heard me.
Oh, I'm really good at that. So, but I think it's financial literacy, and then you do have organizations, Operation Hope, that is really throughout the United States that teaches financial literacy, helps with home ownership, and even started. And where it really needs to start, Donnie, is at the level of when they're young. Right. So it becomes a lifestyle and a mindset, because, at that age, they're soaking it up. And one of the things I like about Operation Hope, they teach you at a young age how to become an entrepreneur, how to manage the money. So I really think that it really needs to start younger. It's not that we can't learn things when we get older. That's not what I'm suggesting, but I think that it is a lifestyle.
Where are you with the schools?
What do you mean with the schools?
What role do
the Baltimore
City Public Schools play with the Baltimore Times? How do we get students involved? We need more young journalists.
we do. We are collaborating with Morgan State University. We do, as you talk about economic sustainability, we do promote a lot of what we're calling kidspreneurs. You've seen quite a few of them on the cover of the Baltimore Times. And so we are also working to develop initiative to even help them with technical assistance, right? Because they need it too as a young business so that they can grow a real strong enterprise. So that's it. We haven't done anything necessarily with the Baltimore City Public Schools. We would love to work with them to get our publication in schools, right? Because it is positive news, it's inspiring.
What is the role of the Black press?
I think that the role of the black press is to well, I could speak for us, and certainly is really to share the real story. Let me say the true story. I think that other press outlets could leave out things that could change the narrative and how we see the stories. So it's for us, it's important to share the truth about what's happening. It's also our role to create the forums for the conversation and conversation sharing. We get to and it's interesting because part of the conversation was you need to know what's going on in Florida, right, or these other states because they're coming to a city near you, and so part of it is also for us collectively to know what's happening in respective communities, and what's nice is also the sharing of the solutions. So
Are
we
we
have
victims?
the opportunity to conversate, to share solutions. This is how we did this. This is how we did that. And so that's important.
Paris, are we victims or are we victors?
I'm going to say, you know what? It's funny you should ask that question because I thought when I heard Stacy and them talking this morning, I don't see myself as a victim. I see us as victors. When you look at institutions, and I'm going to tell you, one of the things that I was amazed to find out the Afro, and I probably should have known this, was the second oldest business in the United States, Black business. When you look at the resiliency
I
of
don't know about
Black
that.
businesses,
I don't know about that. Let me tell you something. You got a business over in East Baltimore called Locke's Funeral Home. And I
mhm,
know they're one of the. I know the Afro is one of the oldest Black family businesses,
mhm,
but Locke's Funeral Home over in East Baltimore goes back to 1835. Matter of fact, a lady in our circle, Cynthia Galmore, is
mhm,
actually the owner of it. But I do know the Afro is one of the oldest Black newspapers
mhm.
in the
But
country.
I
But
used to.
I never got that about one of the oldest in the country. I
Well,
never.
she said she was the second oldest. So I say that to say, and I use them as an example, and of course the one that you're also talking about, I'm looking at that as an example of our resiliency. Because when you look at what's going on in this in nationally and even globally, we are victors. When you think of despite everything they fling at us, everything, we always rise to the top in different industries. And so if the playing field was leveled in every single industry, we would excel in every single industry.
Maybe
And
that's the
so,
fear.
yeah, and maybe that is the fear.
I
When
mean,
I
it's
look
certainly
at
fear. Fear of what? We're not always clear, but it's certainly fear. When a cop rolls up on you with his gun out, that's fear.
that is fear, right? You approach with the spirit of fear, right? And when nothing is even happening,
Shouldn't be a
when
cop.
nothing's even happening. So back to your, I don't believe and I don't see us as victims. I don't. I've watched too many of us overcome, and we're still here. We're still here, and we still at the top of our game, even with everything, despite the oppression, despite years of slavery, despite all
Despite
of that.
Karen,
Yeah.
every
despite Karen, right? Despite Karen, we're
why don't
still
that kid go get a life? I mean, I'm walking the dog, I'm flying a frisbee. and you call the police on me because you feel threatened. Where does that sickness originate? For instance, I know it is. It's that manifest destiny thing that this country was made for one group of people, despite the people who were living here. Y'all don't deserve to live here. This is mine.
Now they act like victims. they act like victims.
Would you go out to the zoo and smack the lion?
No. Not if I value my life.
As soon as you stick your arm through the cage, that lion's gonna rip it off. So why go messing,
And I would deserve that, right? I would deserve that because if you understand the nature, right? Yeah.
But certain folks want to go out there and blame the lion. It reminds me of the joke about a shark attack. They say a shark attack is when you're in your shower and a shark runs up on you in your shower. They say, but if you're out there in the ocean, that's not called a shark attack. That's called trespassing.
And there you go. Right. You out in his space. So you need to, yeah, you're in his space at that point. But I appreciate the way the brother handled it, though. And I'm from New York, and I know exactly where he was walking, so I get it. And I see it often. I had a dog, and I walked in Central Park too. I get it. There's this feeling that I can do this. I can let my dog off the chain.
I'm glad you mentioned this. Now I got a trivia for you, New York. Now, I'm big on history, and we talk about Black business history, and we only got a minute or so. But look,
okay,
you're familiar with Seneca Village in Central Park?
Seneca, no.
In between 82nd and 89th Street, there was an independent Black community.
Yes.
It was torn down. It was raised for the completion of Central Park. But this goes back to 1828. And over in Brooklyn, they got Weeksville, which is 1835, independent Black community.
There were a lot of them in New York, even over where they call it Hell's Kitchen. Over there also was one. So yeah, you're right. They were independent communities all over.
And I just saw someone is doing, I think Black Enterprise reported it, someone's doing a movie on the first Black millionaire on Wall Street. Yeah. I'd have to go and pull that story for you, but there's a lot of history. Paris, if people need you, if they want to get in touch with you, how can you be contacted?
Well, you can contact me directly. I don't mind. I love hearing from folks. pbrown@btimes.com. You can also contact us by phone, 410-366-3900. And of course, I always want to encourage folks to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and visit baltimore-online.com. And, for your daily dose of positive news, a lot of good stuff going on in Baltimore. I'm so glad to be a part of it. I'm so glad to be a conduit for that good news. And we are victors.
Good deal. First, I want you to have a powerful morning. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Get on with this day. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Have a blessed one.
Yes, ma'am. So the BlackUSA.News morning show will be on at 10 a.m. We did have another guest who was to join us. A lot of people are talking about the trial. There was a press conference yesterday, and we'll let some of the other shows chime in as this week proceeds. Everyone has an opinion. This entire Mosby scenario is certainly making people take a stance. One could call it divisive. So I'm going to go down to gorgeous Prince George's. Doc, how you doing?
Good morning. Good morning, Donnie. How are you?
I'm doing good. Man, yeah, put your camera down a little bit. You got you down the bottom. Adjust your camera. Can you do that? There you go. Barely see your face. There we go.
Yeah, you got me.
There we go. How you doing, Dr. Wilson? Dr. Wilson.
Doing great, Donnie. How are you?
Man, we just trying to make sense out of this world.
Well, let me join you.
How have you been?
I've been good. Working hard. What about yourself?
Did you see this? This is my second book, I Am Black Wall Street. Now you wrote a book that's over here called The Power That Never Came. We ain't talked about your book in a while. And by the way, welcome to the metaverse. You may not know this, but this show is now visible in STEM City, USA. This man right here, STEM City, USA, Dr. Tyrone Taborn, we're now in the metaverse. So when you get your fancy virtual reality goggles to the tune of about $300-400, you get to see all of the new things that are happening in the virtual world. But I want to talk to you a little bit about politics. What's going on in the state of Maryland? Who do we vote for? Who do we like? Who's been good to us? Who's full of it? Come on, Doc, give me the skinny.
Hey, Don, it's changing every day. Every day is something new. A lot of promises. Much to my chagrin, many of the people running for the higher office, people don't know them. It's one thing to be known internationally, but you have to be known locally. And I was listening at a sermon by Dr. King. Said, if you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. Many of our people think that they can fly. And that's what's been happening in politics, is that everybody wants to be a leader, but there are no followers. And I'm from the old school. I always watch the animals and see what they do, and I take my message from there. I was walking and I watched the geese the other day. I've been watching them for years. The format that they fly under, formation, is very unique. And that is that each one of them will drop back and allow the other one to take the lead to get to their destination. Strangely, we're not like that. We believe that we were born on top and we should be on top without doing any work. Many people running for office probably don't even know the section of town that you live in. But they use technology now as a way of streaming things into folk. And still people that I know of want to see their politicians. So many false promises. And as Dr. King said, one of the biggest components out of the civil rights movement was, number one, economics. And that is still true today. But I was listening at some young entrepreneurs, females, on a radio, WHUR, a few days ago. Strangely but sad, many of them feel as if that they can just go out and get in business without having someone to back them up. Well, we know that that's just not true. Whatever you do in business, you have to have a backdrop. You have to have a plan. And whether it's that little mother or father or husband or someone in the background that's going to support you when you fall on hard times, or when the banks come knocking on your door, which they will do. They have a dream world that they don't want to get married. I understand that. They don't want to have children.
I don't understand.
I don't understand that. But they want the good life. I've been in business for 50-some years, and there's no good life to business. we missed the boat because we think that what we see on TV is the way we need to go. And while plotting our way through that, we forget that it was that mother or that father or that uncle or that man on the door or that man that played numbers or that man that did this probably did more for your community than you ever would do.
Martin Luther King said, the richer we become materially, the poorer we become morally and spiritually. We have learned to fly the air like birds and swim the seas like fish, but we have not learned the simple art of living together as brothers and sisters.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But the problem is that we always want someone else to tell our story.
Why? God gave you the ability to write, to read, to type.
I love telling my story.
Man, I was watching a futuristic movie. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No.
A futuristic movie. Another planet. You know, after the apocalypse, after the viruses and the pandemics, whole new setup, Star Trek and all of that. The first person that got killed in that movie was a person of color. I was like, golly, we still the first one to get killed in the movie. Jeez.
Well, if you look at the Indians, when you look at cowboy movies, first one that come over the hill, the cavalry. And most of us used to sit in the movie and clap when they came to kill the Indians off. Little did we know that was a part of what we're paying the price for, have paid the price for all our lives. And the history of our people is so bright. I can say more for the history of those who have gone on than for those who are living. And that, to me, is a shame because we ride on someone else's shoulders and back. Dr. King also said that if you didn't have a hump in your back, can't nobody ride it. But I do believe that sometimes many of us try to stand up. And if you ever notice an old tree, when it gets old, it bends over. There's a lot of young people that have been usurped to the system that they're bent over before they even get to where they're going. That's a structural thing. But basically, we don't listen to each other. We don't listen to wisdom. We want to go out there and get knocked around, bumped around, and come back and say, oh, the world did me wrong, and da 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 da. I don't like this and I don't like that.
I got a pointed question for you. Is this election over? This race for governor, is it already done?
Donnie, I have looked over, and what I've seen is what I've seen throughout the country. Everybody wants to be an individualist. Everybody, sometimes we have to be very, very careful because there's no one in the world any more supportive of our people.
Wouldn't be no Biden if it weren't for black people.
Right. No question. But I've come to the realization if we cannot make that reality for the mass of people, then we've lost the ball game. We become selfish. We become the people that they talk about. And for some reason, I've noticed that some people go out of their way to speak to other people and not speak to you. Now, I find, and they'll bend over back, oh, how you doing today, Mr. So-and-so. And you're looking at it, they never speak to you. And you say, did you forget something that is always appropriate to recognize people for who they are, not for who you think they are?
You know, when I was a waiter, I got to tell you this, Doc, I learned a very valuable lesson as a waiter, downtown Baltimore, right on the harbor. The white gentleman in the suit is sitting in my section. And so is a black gentleman with a tennis shirt, with tennis shorts, and tennis shoes on. Now, every waiter wants to get the tip. But I learned a very valuable lesson on that day. The white man in the suit ran out on a check. The black man with the tennis shorts on, unbeknownst to us, pulled up in a yacht. So quickly, people will go judging and end up putting all of their time and attention on the white guy with the suit. I'm talking to my waiters out there, black, white, whatever. I'm telling you, do not judge. The physical mind in America could have one thinking, oh, that white guy in the suit got plenty money. He gonna leave me a nice tip. Ran out on the check. Black man on the yacht leaving $100 tips. Be careful how you judge.
Without a doubt. You know,
black people were my best customers. Let me say this. As a waiter, black people were my best customers and my worst. Some of them didn't know ketchup from cocktail sauce. Would run me all over the place, stealing crab cakes off the buffet and everything. But then there were other black people that just treated me like royalty. And so again, you know, it all evens out in the end. If you're good at what you do, I would get 17% from my Jewish customers. You know why? Because I knew what they liked. They want that decaf coffee after that meal. And I put that decaf coffee, fresh pot, I put a little extra microwave heat on it. So when you go to touch the cup, it little, some people like that. Give them what they like. Give the people what they want.
Yeah, well, you know, when we look back at history, it's just a repeat. And I guess many of us who live long enough get tired of the repeat. It's like an old movie you've seen before.
What should we be looking for in this next governor? What do we need?
I think economics is number one. I don't mean false economics. I mean economics.
But do our politicians know how to say that, how to articulate that? Because look, Doc, I'm 56. You what, 2 days older than me? I'm tired of us being ignored. There would be no winners in Maryland without the 30% black population. We sway an election when we work together. We got Steele early, Baltimore PG collaboration. You know, Boyd Rutherford, Hogan, Baltimore PG.
Yeah,
when Baltimore PG come together, it's game over. Yeah. But Baltimore PG got to work better together. Yeah. For instance, both of our school systems are fighting for last place.
Yes. Been like that ever since I've been knowing it, Donnie. 1 and 2 at the bottom.
Something's wrong with that.
Yes. We can correct anything if we want to. The problem is that there are too many games being played, and people are self-serving. They get theirs. The heck with you.
Not these politicians.
Oh yes. Number one.
I thought it was about us. That's what they said about Barack Obama. A lady down on the Eastern Shore said, we thought Barack Obama was about us. We come to find out that it was more about him.
Well, if you go back, just look. Some people in politics have never made their own salary. They've always had a job, or they always had a political position. But as far as being out here on the stump, where they have to make ends meet to run a business and be successful, and have employees that they pay, and their employees are successful. Do you know how much money you have to make in order to make $100,000 in business? You'd have to have almost $1.3 million that and then pay the government and everybody else before you reach that $100,000. And still, you end up owing somebody from that. So the millennials have got to realize business is not easy. most businesses, successful white businesses, have come from the banks, other institutions, being able to give them a second, third, fourth, and fifth chance. When you're in business as a minority, you get a half a chance. And the dream world is not all that we try to make the business world out of being, because number one, it's hard. Business is not easy. And for the young millennials, I strongly suggest that they start talking to folk who've been there. People can direct them toward the way and things to avoid.
The problem is on both sides. Older people not pulling in the young people, and the young people are pulling away from the older people. Huge mistake.
No question. No
Huge
question.
mistake, because I can't make it without access to you, Dr. Wilson. You've been there for me from my first book, my second book. You helped us do the Black Wall Street Awards down there in Woodmore in the country club. You know, I've been wanting to go to that country club forever. You've taken me in, pulled me under your wing, and treated me like your very own. And in return, my job is to be a big brother to Randolph.
Yeah.
And make sure that I pass on the same unconditional love to him, and make sure that he's successful, whether it's in Maryland, whether it's in California, whether it's in East Africa.
Yes.
But we don't listen to our elders, and we have no sense of loyalty.
That's true. That's true. Your plight and your child and your family is my child, my family.
You've always made me feel that.
Yes. And no matter our shortcomings or our major accomplishments, I always think that it's always good. And I always tell you this. I always tell a lot of the young business people that are successful here in the county, and I can go into any of them and talk to them. If you need me, let me know. I may not have everything you want, but I certainly have something that I can help you do.
Doc, tell them that story about when you go to the 7-Eleven.
When I go to the 7-Eleven,
you see the young people, somebody might be outside panhandling or.
Yeah, when I go to the 7-Eleven, I immediately look number one and see there's a lady that comes up. She watches me go into the post office, and I come out and I give her some money at the post office. Then when I go to 7-Eleven, she's up there at 7-Eleven as well. I said, "You must be following me." She laughed and said, "I am." So I hit up again. So for the last 5-6 years, that's been my route, post office, 7-Eleven. And she's right there. And I say, you know, like Dr. King said, if I pass that person by, what would happen to them? And I said, if I can just make it comfortable for a little while, then who knows where this lady may be. And then one day she told me, she said, you know what I used to do? I said, what? She said, I used to be a banker. She said, I used to be a banker. She fell on hard times. And so I never pass anyone by that I can, if it's a quarter. One man asked me downtown, he walked up to me and scared me, said, "Give me $1." I looked at him, I said, "I ain't got no dollar." He said, "Well, then give me 50 cents. I said, "Okay, you got the dollar." So there's always a lesson that we can learn from each other.
I was standing with a preacher once, Red. We were downtown somewhere. No, I was standing with a delegate who's no longer in office, thank God. I don't make a crap load of money, but I felt compelled at that time, and it don't matter who's standing around. When the Spirit tell you give that person something, you better do it. And I did it.
Yeah.
But then I was thinking about the delegate. I'm like, he didn't think to reach for his pocket. That was not even a consideration. Like, get out of here. Not that I am to judge. Never know what it was. Delegate might have been broke. Mm-hmm. But I learned then that these people cannot be my hero. Just because you won a position, just a title, just because you got 3 letters or 2 letters, the PhD, the doctor, this. God don't care. God is not a respecter of persons. You better treat people right. That's what I even tell my dog that. Pharaoh, be nice. Don't just go out there being mean for no reason. Be nice.
There's a small piece that says, and I believe that 75% of living, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That is the most potent part of the teaching that anyone can teach. And if you live by that, you would do the right thing. But the problem is that we've got caught up in the me syndrome. Everything's about me. Nothing about anyone else. It's all about me. I don't give a damn about my neighbor. I don't care. And I can walk through neighborhoods and pick up who's happy and who's not. In most neighborhoods, there are not very many happy people.
But you can also go to other states. Doc, you've been all over the country.
Yeah, I've been blessed. God has blessed me.
When we did these awards down in New Orleans, and I told you about it, you told me to look up Dr. Bynum, and you gave me a list of about 10 other people. Hey, put them on your list. They good people. Yeah, I still remember meeting Dr. Bynum.
They remember you too, because you've done well in the Black Wall Street, and I followed that. In fact, let me say this, and I'm glad we're on. I have a niece who goes to Princeton. You know what course she's having a hard time in?
Black history.
Yes. Yes. And I told her, look Donnie up. I gave her all of your information. I said, you want to know something about Black history? Go and call Mr. Donnie. I said, because number one, most of our Black students, whether they're students, she's very astute. She's written a book, 800-some page book. At 17 years old, valedictorian of her class, and one smarter than a whip. Her problem and up there, Black history.
Doc, I went to Morehouse. I took a physical science class over at Clark College. I'll never forget it. And Morehouse back then this is 83, about 8,000 a year. And today, I guess that'd be about 40,000. But I'll never forget taking this physical science class. It was a white instructor, and he was stating that the principles of science and mathematics were developed in Greece. I almost spit up on myself. I was just sick to my stomach. I'm paying you top dollar for you to lie to me on a Black campus? Oh my. I gave that man the blues. I had a similar instance. I had a white professor at Morgan State University. Told me that the Greeks founded civilization. I'm like, on a Black campus? Blasphemy. I thank God for my dad. You would have loved him. Doc, he was always sticking something in front of me to read. Read this, boy. Here, read this, boy. Books, National Geographics. Just reading. The more we read, the more those walls come down and we see what we can accomplish. That there's no limit to what we can accomplish, but we got to know our history, and we got to know our history so well that no one else can come and tell us who we are, because that's what's happening. We think that our history begins and ends with slavery.
And strange you said that, but I've got about 400 names of research that I've just completed of Black prominent individuals from, guess where? Prince George's County.
Give me some of them names. We got a couple minutes here, but give me some of them names.
Cora Rice, Jim House.
Oh yeah, big ups Jim House. God rest his soul in heaven.
No question. Carl Jones. this is strange. Cubit Plummer. Do you know who Cubit Plummer
No, but
is?
I won't forget the name.
Please look him up, and your audience need to look him up. His family built the University of Maryland. The Plummer
Cupid
family.
Plummer.
Look the Plummer family up. And you had, and they created a church that was Sir and Millennium. Cubit. And every time I go to the University of Maryland and I try to, when I'm making presentations, I've heard people say, well, we got the information, let us know. I said, well, who is Cubit Plummer? Quiet. Wayne Kerr, former county executive. Newcomer. There's a newcomer, Calvin Hawkins. You may know him.
Calvin is the chair of the Prince George's County Council.
Absolutely, a young man that came through Wayne Kerr, nurtured him. I was right there with him. Nate Crenton, black barber in the county, owned 5 barbershops. And you got Reverend James Wyatt, Floyd Wilson, first black council person in Prince George's County.
You introduced me to Mr. Floyd.
Yes, I did. Senator Decatur Trotter. I introduced you to him too. Tommy Broadwater.
First black state senator out of Prince George's County.
Thank you. Dr. Wise. James Wise. First black medical doctor in Prince George's County. Albert Wynn, former congressperson. Linwood Jones. We got Eloise Hamilton, Lawrence Brooks, William Singleton, Lonzel Martin, Lonzel Black, Wilbert Hawkins, John Spearman. Oh my God, we got Bonnie Johns. Every time I look around, another one pop up. I've got them all listed. I've done a history on them all. I got pictures of them all. I got the first black personnel director, Lucille Johnson, came out of Houston, Texas. John Mann, the first black personnel director in Prince George's County. And until somebody in the political arena can come and tell me, Bob Spencer, the first black to run for Congress in Prince George's County. We must learn our history or else we're doomed. You cannot govern people without knowing who brought you to the dance. And
Doc, we got to get off, but I want to put one more name on your list. Dr. Wilbert Wilson.
But I want to put one more. The godfather of Prince George's County, I'll let it be. Henry T. Arrington. He just passed.
Yes, Hank Arrington.
Hank Arrington, we all know him. He made 2 county executives. He was the first person appointed by Marvin Mandel to head up the Minority Business Program. WSSC, the man is a legend.
Doc, we got to go. Our next show is about to come on. We love and respect you. My name's Donnie Glover, and stay tuned. Good morning, world.